My name is Matthew. I go by the art name Boneyard Rebels and the photography name Boneyard Photo. And I'm an alcoholic, and you might be too. Let me explain. In 1990, I was 10 going on 11 learning how to play the guitar. I got every magazine and book I could find trying to learn all my favorite songs. I was hooked. It's all I wanted to do. I taught my best friend how to play, and we learned new songs together. Now that was all I wanted to do. Right around the start of high school, we started a band. At first, we just played our favorite songs, but it didn't take long before we started writing our own songs. Figuring out how our favorite bands wrote our favorite songs was the coolest thing I had ever done. Knowing that I could write songs like my heroes changed everything for me. I was hooked. Now that was all I wanted to do. I was terrible, but I was determined to get better. I was going to be in a band no matter what. We practiced every chance we got, and we got better. We started playing our crappy songs in front of people, and it was exactly how I hoped it would be. I was hooked. It was all I was ever going to do. After high school, we moved to San Diego, where my favorite band was from. We played shows at the same places they played. People we didn't know were coming to watch us play, so we practiced harder. We wrote better songs. More people showed up. It was happening. I was hooked. We moved to Los Angeles a few years later to play in the big leagues. We practiced even harder. We got better. We wrote better songs. We played at all the iconic places my heroes played decades before. We were doing it. I was hooked. And one day, it was over. I got kicked out of my own band. Everything I had worked for decades was gone. I was crushed. If I didn't have music, then what the fuck was I here for? I had to get away. Far away. I'd show them. I'd show them all. I left LA and settled in Seattle, where my favorite band was from. I couldn't wait to find new people to create with. I didn't. I tried to write on my own, but it wasn't the same. I was no longer hooked. I still had one thing that stayed with me. One thing I was good at that they couldn't take away from me. I loved to drink. A lot. When I started playing music seriously, I also started drinking seriously. It was as much fun as the music, and I quickly connected the two. Sometimes I wouldn't play unless I was drinking. So when the music was gone, I still had one thing that couldn't take away from me. No one could, because I was hooked. Then I'm in my 30s doing whatever job a washed-up musician can do, just so I can do the only thing I like to do. No more creating, no more practicing, no more growing, just drinking as much as I could afford to. I was hooked. When I was 37, I started having really bad chest pains. I would have a couple drinks and those pains would go away. I didn't think much of it. I loved drinking, so win-win. Turns out my heart valves were almost completely blocked, and the alcohol was thinning the blood enough to make it through the blocks. The doctor said the alcohol was keeping me from having a heart attack. He told me this after I had had a heart attack on the table in the emergency room that I went to because the alcohol wasn't working to stop the pain anymore. I had a triple bypass at 37, and when I got better, I had another chance to keep on drinking, but I was still hooked. In 2020, COVID happened. I was able to work, and since there was nothing else to do, I drank even more. It was all I did, every day, until I passed out, so I could do it all again the next day. It was selfish. I was selfish. I was an asshole. I hurt all the people that cared about me. I didn't care that I was drinking through life alone. But one day something snapped. I snapped. I realized how terrible I had become, how many people I hurt for decades, how much time I wasted being wasted. So I quit. Cold turkey. I had tried to quit before, but always knew I'd be back. But not this time. I knew it was over. But now what? That was the only thing I was good at. I didn't have friends to play music with. That's the only thing I was ever good at before. I still had some gear, but it wasn't the same. I needed somewhere to put that energy. I had some shitty paints from Walmart. I was never very good at painting, but I had always loved art, so what did I have to lose? I had a couple prints of Marilyn Monroe laying around, so I wondered what would happen if I used those shitty paints on those thrift store prints. I didn't even know if it would work, but what did I have to lose? Well, it did work, and it was fun, and I had that feeling again. I knew with practice I could get better at this just like I did with music all those years ago. So I practiced. I got more prints from Goodwill, and I painted on them. I thought it was so cool to take something that no one wanted and turn it into something someone would want again. The more and more I did it, the more I realized that what I was doing to these paintings was what I wanted to do to myself. I wanted to be a new version of the person everyone gave up on. I still wanted everyone to know what I looked like before, but also see what I added. I didn't want to cover it all up. I wanted to see a better version of the art and me. Now this was all I wanted to do. I was hooked. A close friend suggested that I make prints of my work to sell. I didn't know the first thing about how to go about this. He told me to get a camera and take photos of my pieces. He told me what printer to get and what paper to use. He answered any question I had, and I had a lot. So I got some cheap camera because it was cheap, and I didn't know the first thing about cameras. The prints were shit. After some research, I learned that I needed a better camera, a real camera. And the more I learned about cameras and how they work, the more I needed to learn. And I was going to learn it all, because I was hooked. I got a better camera, and my prints came out way better. But now I had two things to continue learning about, two new things to get better at. I was hooked again. After a couple years, I had improved my art and improved my photography a lot. I wanted a way to document my progress. I wanted a real way to see if I was getting better. So I started this YouTube channel. I wasn't going to have to remember or look at pictures or trust my friends to tell me I was getting better. I could see it for myself. But I didn't know shit about video editing, so I had to learn that skill on the fly, and I'm still learning. But now I had a place to keep track of my art progress. Now I have a place to keep track of my photography progress. But I was surprised by something I didn't see coming. These crappy videos were going to need music. I used some free music a couple of times, but it became clear to me what was coming next. I was going to get to write and record music again. I was going to use my own music in my own videos. I was going to get better at music, and I was going to have a record of that too. It might not be the same as it was when I was playing with other people, but it didn't matter. I was playing again. So now I have 3 things I want to learn about. I have 3 things I want to get better at, and I have 3 things I want to show everyone. I have 3 things that replace one life-ending habit. And every day I think about how I can get better at all 3 because I'm hooked. I'll never be able to shake being an addict, but I found a way to focus that need to need something. I found a way to focus all that energy into a better version of me. I started this channel to document my own growth, but if someone else gets something from it, then that's gravy. I'm not sure I'd be where I am today if I hadn't done all this to myself, but I gave myself a second chance. I'm painting on that old discarded painting. I am a boneyard rebel. I've been sober for 3.5 years, and if I can change it all for the better, then anyone can. I don't have to hide the fact that I let my addiction get away from me, that I almost let it end me. I'm a better version of me because of it. So if being an alcoholic made me realize how much better I could be, then I'm an alcoholic, and you might be too.